Am I the a-hole for not talking to my cousin and not going to her wedding over a prank and potentially ruining her relationship? Okay, so this is much different than it sounds. My cousin Millie, 30 female, is an ER nurse. Her birthday was a few days ago, and we planned a birthday prank, which was leaving a fake snake on her cake. All fun and games because we do this every year to every family member. Well, apparently this year Millie didn't want it, so she was pretty pissed at the fact we did it. Now, a few days ago, while I was in school, I got a call from Millie during lunch. I thought it would be her saying she's picking me up. Well, no, it wasn't. Millie proceeded to tell me that my mother had passed away in a car accident. My heart dropped, and I felt like puking. My mother and I don't have the best relationship, but I still love her. Millie began to tell me the details of the death and what exactly happened to the point I hung up on her and called my mother. My mom, who was supposedly at work as a nurse, didn't pick up, and I ended up running to the bathroom. I called my dad, bawling my eyes out and telling him what happened. He didn't understand what I was talking about because he talked to my mom right before I called. He made me explain everything, and understandably, he was pissed. He picked me up from school and called my mom in the car, just to prove that she was alive and okay. That night, my aunt, not Millie's mom, called a meeting at her house and we all talked it out. They all were pretty much disgusted with Millie as she tried to justify her choices, but she did end up apologizing. But I got up and stated that I didn't want to talk to her ever again. Now Millie is engaged. Her wedding is coming up soon and I was supposed to be a flower girl. I'm 15, but they wanted me to be part of it. So now I have pulled out of the wedding, which is what Millie is worried about. She doesn't want people to question where I am and started to yell at me for being petty. My dad took me home and I blocked Millie and everything. Her fiancé, who I am close to because he and Millie took care of me when I was younger, ended up messaging me, asking me to come. I told him no, and what his fiancé did was disgusting. He said while what Millie did was wrong for doing it at school, it was just a prank. I blew up at him. She told me my mother was dead. Freaking dead. I ended up yelling. He sounded generally confused and asked me what the hell I was talking about. I told him what happened, and turns out Millie and her mother lied to him and said that Millie just sent a gory picture to me while I was at school. Next thing I knew is that he left to stay with his mother and apologized to me. I apologized to him because I did call him a jerk while I was yelling. Now I'm getting blamed for ruining Millie's relationship. I'm still not talking to her or her mother, but Reddit, am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Wait, you're 15? So a grown adult tells you your mom is dead in brutal details, and that's funny? Snake on a cake is mild, nowhere near traumatizing, unless you have an extreme phobia. Not an a-hole. We checked with her close friends at her fiancé if she had a phobia against them. We got a firm no from all, which is why we went with it. Millie knew we were going to prank her because she participates in all the other birthday pranks and has gotten pranked in the past. So, wait a second. She participates in the pranks and then has a hizzy and turns into a psycho abuser when it's her turn? Good riddance. Maybe Millie's relationship is going down the crapper because she can't stop lying? Not the a-hole. How the hell could you have known she lied to her fiancé? And making you believe that your mother is dead? It's just sick. I don't blame you for not wanting to be a flower girl for someone who did that to you. I don't know the inside of their relationship, but I do know that they have been together since I was 8. Never really saw any problems with their relationship, which is why I feel bad about this. And since you don't know the insides of their relationship, you are not responsible for its outcome. You simply stated the truth, and why wouldn't you? Stop feeling bad about things you have no control over. You didn't make her do that awful prank, and you didn't lie to her fiancé. Going back in time, there's nothing you could or should have done differently. Calling someone and telling someone their mother is dead is not a prank. It's an act of cruelty. Your cousin deserves the fallout as a consequence of her own hurtful behavior. You are not the a-hole. Especially when the person calling is an emergency room nurse. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for bringing up a past issue with my father at a family wedding when pushed to talk? My cousin got married 3 weeks ago. Cousin and I are paternal cousins related through my father. Father and I are estranged, and the first time I saw him in the last 4 years was at the wedding. While there, he approached me multiple times to talk. I said no firmly more than a dozen times, until he pushed yet again and I snapped. Some background: my parents divorced when I was 5. My dad put his relationships before me a lot, and it was hard to be around him at times. Some of his girlfriends were fine, others were not. When I was 10, he met his wife, and when I was 12, she got pregnant. I lost my mom the day their oldest was born. My mom was dead a whole hour when he showed up. Same hospital, but he was with his wife, and tried to get me to act all excited to meet the baby. That stuff was hard, I won't lie. We actually got into a fight the very next day because I had no interest in meeting the baby, and a year later when it was her first birthday, I was all depressed and it was an issue, especially when I didn't want to join in the celebration. The relationship was already broken, but by then it was gone beyond repair. He was mad and thought I was selfish. I felt abandoned and couldn't share their joy because I lost the most important person in the world to me. I moved in with my grandparents about 6 months before my 18th birthday, and the day before my birthday was the last time I spoke to my father. Until the wedding, and like I said, I snapped when he just kept approaching me, and I told him that he freaking sucked for expecting me to be happy about a baby being born the day my mom died, and that he abandoned me for his wife and new kid when I was losing the most important person in the world, and then he called me selfish? I told him that he had let me down and nothing he could do would fix it, and I could not make it more clear that I didn't want anything to do with him. I ended up leaving the wedding, but my cousin followed me out and tried to talk to me into staying and reassure me I did nothing wrong, but I didn't want to make more of an issue. But my aunt is pissed. My aunt is my father's sister. She told me I was an a-hole for making such a scene at my cousin's wedding, that I should have continued walking away, that it was terrible to say that where others could hear. And not only had I upset my father, but his family was there and heard the whole thing. And so did her son-in-law's family. My cousin said her husband's family heard nothing, and neither did most of the guests, and that her mom is blowing it out of proportion. But I feel bad because it has caused even more family drama than we already have. My not talking to my father is quite controversial in my paternal family. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. You didn't make a scene. Your father did. You told him repeatedly you didn't want to talk to him and repeatedly ignored you. Since his putting his knees over yours was the root of your initial issue with him, I don't think he's changed much. I'm sorry for the loss of your mother, Opie. Take good care of yourself. That's my question, though. Why on earth would he not just leave her alone after what sounds like many, many years of no contact? It's like he was asking for a fight. Not the a-hole. You didn't want to speak to your father, and he kept pushing the issue, which understandably upset you. Your cousin, whose wedding it was, seems to support you in this, and that's what matters. She wasn't upset by the fact that you confronted your father at her wedding, because at the end of the day, no guests were really paying attention. This is just your father's side of the family overreacting and trying to make you feel bad for standing your ground. This is a wonderful point. Opie, at some point, please clear the air with your cousin and her new significant other. She sounds incredibly graceful and kind. Not the a-hole. Your father was given opportunities to read the situation and chose to risk his niece's day. Listen to your cousin. You're okay. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for being upset that my parents are skipping my graduation for my brother's wedding again? I, 23 female, graduated with my bachelor's last year, and I'm now working on my master's. I'm the only child out of 6 to graduate college and get higher ed. My college posts academic schedules in advance, so I knew 4 years in advance the exact date I would be graduating. Throughout these years, I was reminding everyone when it was because it landed on my brother's, 27 male, birthday. Over winter break before the pandemic, my brother and his longtime on and off girlfriend announced they had eloped. My mom was ecstatic and started asking if they would have a ceremony. My new sister-in-law said they were already planning on their shared birthday. I interjected at this point that I was graduating that day and there was no way I could make it, and my parents since they would be there, but if they moved it to next year or any other time, we could do it. Before they could say anything, my mom said she'd be going to their wedding, not my graduation. I asked her if she was really going to skip something I've worked so hard for that I feel is a huge accomplishment. I could see skipping if they were going to get married, but they had already eloped and it would just be the ceremony. The next few months were very tense and icy, until the pandemic shut everything down anyway. I told my parents that there was a good chance they'd hold commencement next year around the same time, but almost guaranteed not to be on my brother's birthday, so keep the week cleared for the most part. Last week, my college announced they were going to hold a commencement for the 2020 class the day before his birthday. I was excited and thought everything had worked out. But when I told my mom, she said they would be gone the whole week with my brother and sister-in-law for a small destination ceremony across the country. She said she hadn't told me earlier because it was my finals week and I'd be busy anyway. I'll admit that I wasn't able to contain myself and started crying that my mom would skip my graduation twice. She claims it's not a big deal since I'll be graduating next year with my master's and she can see that one. This has my family split, and I can't tell if I'm the a-hole. It is his, presumably, only wedding ceremony, and that date does hold significance to them. But my graduation was years of hard work and dedication. Not the a-hole. A graduation cannot be rescheduled. A wedding can. And I find that having a wedding on your shared birthday is just plain lazy. Less presents, less work, etc. Especially when someone else has an event falling on that day. Your mother clearly favors your brother over you, and sees getting married to someone else as a bigger accomplishment. You want to know why? Because she is gonna get grandbabies. And they're probably going to have the same last name as her. If she treated you equally, she'd be begging your sibling to change the date. And she wouldn't be brushing off this accomplishment as if you were getting a participation trophy. Yep. And to add, I'm the only child out of 6 to graduate college and get higher ed. Cue the, well, you just think you're better than us, don't you? Comments from dear old mom. Opie, you're doing great. Keep being awesome. Build your life the way you want and ignore your mother. She's not capable of giving you the love and validation you need. I'm sorry. She's a terrible mother for treating you that way, and you deserve better. Maybe some therapy at your college student center might help. Keep studying and reach for your goals. Don't let your family stomp down your spirit. You deserve better than that. Not a-hole. You had that date set for years. Your family sounds like a bunch of selfish a-holes, to be honest. Agreed. She claims it's not a big deal since I'll be graduating next year with my master's, and she can see that one. If you weren't committed to a graduation date announced years in advance, you won't be committed to next year's graduation if brother has another celebration conflicting with a graduation date. You shouldn't make promises you can't keep. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for not taking pictures at my sister's wedding? My sister, 36 female, and I, 27 female, got married the same year. It was time for her wedding, and she decided to have a very small wedding. Mostly family only, but even then, not everyone was invited. She got married in California and we all had to travel to her wedding. She had hired someone who offered a wedding package that included officiating the wedding, photography, and taking care of the legal stuff afterwards, submitting marriage license, etc. My other sister and I were her bridesmaids. At the time, I was a wedding videographer and had started getting more into photography. Since this was a combined vacation with all the wedding stuff, I brought my nice camera. I took a few pictures of my sister and her bride before the ceremony for fun, and then didn't during the ceremony because I was in it. After the ceremony was finished, my sister, her bride, and the officiant/photographer pair that she hired went to take bridals on the beach. I didn't follow. As a wedding vendor myself, I hate when that family member is at the wedding, with their nice camera taking pictures right over your shoulder and acting like they were the ones hired. I find it super annoying and disrespectful as a wedding vendor myself. So I didn't follow them when they went to take bridals. I visited with family and enjoyed the beach while we waited to head to dinner. Well, turns out she hired some shady people and they ghosted her after her wedding. They never turned in her marriage license and she never got any of her wedding photos. She was devastated and pissed, for very obvious reasons. But somehow this was also my fault. She had no wedding photos because of me. Because I didn't hover and follow them around or direct the shoot and take the exact same photos as the person she hired to do it. It is my fault she has no photos of her wedding. In the few years after her wedding, she grew to resent me and hate me for that. And she completely removed me from her life, but she keeps in contact with the rest of my family. They have asked why she hates me and won't talk to me, and this is a huge reason. I understand she is devastated about her wedding basically not ever happening, since there's very few pictures, most of them being on phones from attendees. And it's not even a legal/legit wedding because the marriage license was never submitted. But I don't see how I'm the one to take all the blame. She never asked me to take photos, and even if she had, I would have said no for the same reasons as I said above. It's super disrespectful and annoying to the person you hired to do that job. How was I supposed to know the person she hired was shady as hell and would ghost her completely afterwards? I don't think I'm the a-hole, but I'm wondering if I'm missing something. Not the a-hole. Well, turns out she hired some shady people and they ghosted her after her wedding. They never turned in her marriage license and she never got any of her wedding photos. None of any of the above is your fault. It sucks she hired scammy vendors, but she hired them, not you. Exactly. There's no one here to blame but those sketchy people. It's a devastating experience, but blaming Opie is disgusting. Maybe she could have been more responsible and searched for more trustworthy vendors. Not the a-hole. My parents' photographer's shop burned down before they got even one picture. This was in India at a time where cameras weren't easily at hand, so they had 2 candid snapshots from a pre-wedding event where only my dad's profile and my mom's back was visible. That was it. So after the honeymoon, they got dressed up again and had portraits again and got the hell over it. Ridiculous to say the wedding didn't happen because there aren't pictures. More and more with weddings. I ask, what was it all for? To celebrate a marriage with family or take perfect pictures for social media? Yes, we know your sister's answer. Yes, this. Why couldn't the sister and her wife dress up in the same clothes to do a new shoot? Even ask parents to dress up too. Not the a-hole. While she didn't bring the scam on herself, she did bring everything that followed afterwards. You've got nothing to feel bad about other than missing your sister. This is entirely on her. Not the a-hole. Ain't your fault she hired scummy people to do a job at a wedding. Didn't ask you to take extra photos. She is probably mad she got ripped off, and using you as a scapegoat since she obviously can't get a hold of them. You're the easy target since you take photos.